It's interesting to me, because remember the last time we spoke, I asked you a question about the explorer, Leif Erikson.
Yeah.
In terms of where you would explore most of your music, because that was where I thought that you took your name from.
Yeah.
Turns out you took your name from an Interpol song.
Yeah.
It's kind of in between the two.
More, yeah. I mean, Interpol, Inspo, and then I guess a bit from him as well.
No, they just introduced the name, and then I went to
did
the
the
science.
research.
Did I tell you about the Science Museum and the big tree?
Well, I was going to ask, how do you feel you've been influenced by Interpol musically? What do you think you've learned from that band?
Well, actually, I was listening to. We listened through Turn on the Bright Lights yesterday.
On the way up.
And I think that was probably the first band where Giles and I, when we were at school together, we listened to them a lot.
That was teeth cutting time for
Well,
you,
no, I think
wasn't
what it was is that, first of all, I love their music, but also they felt like a really serious band, whereas like a lot of bands around at that time were like New Young Pony Club or the Klaxons or, you know, all
Party
a bit
bands.
sort of kid boyish, do you know what I mean? And like silly and a bit colourful. But they kind of showed that you could be, you know, dark and cool and sharp, you know what I mean? And still make cool music and be cool. But no, and also it's also, it sounds a bit poncy, but it's like it's intellectually stimulating music as well, and it's I like the soundscapes, the darkness in it, the sort of mystical lyrics that you never quite know what they're saying, and yeah, the drumming. I mean, they're all incredible musicians as well.
That's the
a great
key.
band.
That's really it, I think. And they have a really, they capture an amazing, you know, New York feel, I think. Very emotive band, and I've always just loved their music. But it's one of those ones that I don't listen to all the time anymore.
Interesting what you say about the way that they capture New York and the way that it very much was like a character and a presence in their music. Do you feel like London has had any influence on what you create?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, in London is such like a melting pot in terms of culture, and I mean, it's got a bit of everything, doesn't it, London? You go to any other major city in the world, and I think you lose an appreciation for London because we're kind of from there, but actually you realise when you don't have that it's an incredible smorgasbord of everything, and
It's also bigger.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Manhattan, I mean, you could walk, you know, it's not that big, and it's very like condensed, you know.
Maybe not consciously.
No, but exactly.
But
The spirit
surely
is
as
big.
on some level, definitely, under the surface.
I think
they
that
would have
I think
done.
the musical heritage of England definitely has a help, and like the fact that, you know, you think about the 60s and 70s and all the music that was going on all around the UK, but obviously London was like a hub for that. I'd say that's probably what's inspired, and then also probably like living, working in London, traveling around London. Kind of like anyone who lives in a city is going to get affected by the noise and the sort
passive aggressive hub.
Yeah, no, but it's it's a really cool place, and it can also be like a really tough place to be as well. So I think those two things got to seep in, and being surrounded by like a heavy sort of megalopolis urban vibe, I think is quite influential.
Yeah. You mentioned the cinematic soundscape of Interpol there too, which is something that you could really see in 200 Times that you put out recently. In terms of the soundscape of that, how did you go about building it up so it still felt true to the message of the song? And wasn't just, you know, grandiosity for the sake of it, but was something that felt authentic to what was going on there?
Yeah, so basically that was one that I did over lockdown. We started, so we kind of came, I'd been working on that song for a while, and then we had a few sessions in the rehearsal studio where we kind of just got into it, learned all of our parts, and then we laid down some drums and bass and kept those takes. And then I think it was the case that we were sort of really urgently trying to get it done because we knew that the lockdown was going to start. And then during that time, I went down and just ducked out of London and live with my family basically in Somerset.
Escape the city.
Yeah, just in time. And so I took all of my musical. So I took a bunch of clothes and just a load of musical equipment and my recording stuff, with the sort of idea that I would get into some recording basically. And I just gotten some new equipment that I was learning to use, which has been amazing. It's Universal Audio Apollo, little plug there. So I basically was just trying to recreate that feel. What the song is about is sort of, the first line kind of says it all, is like the first, when you've stayed up all night and you start hearing the first plane come over and the birds going, and then you're thinking, oh my God, I've got to go to work in, 3 hours or something. So it's kind of about that, but then as you say with London, it probably has a lot to do with being in London. It was when I was working in London as a chef, which is like great fun, but quite a tough thing to do. And so I was just alone in the countryside, and I would just stay up really late and just worked on that song. And I did a bunch of different mixes, tried recording different guitars. So I was experimenting that time, kind of learning how to make the sounds that I wanted, because it's been a bit of a new venture for me. And I think that was it, really. I think I just really went in deep on that track. And it's a track that really, it feels like my most, to me personally, emotive track, and most emotional track. So it was quite easy just to feel it and kind of just let it come out and capture it kind of there and then. And as I said, it was just me, my mics, my guitar, my singing and stuff like that. So it was a really special time, and just the perfect time to get that track down, I think, because it's quite a sort of introverted type of track. But yeah, it just naturally happened, I guess. I think when I'm recording, when I start to hear stuff back, I start to sort of hear more things happening, so they kind of, the song itself will just like invoke
It's
more.
like a reaction process.
Yeah, well, they call it magical frequencies, which is a thing that where there's loads of frequencies blending together, things will pop out that aren't really there, but they are because of just the nature of sound waves.
They're inferred, almost.
Kind of. It's like, say you get, 300 hertz bashing into 1,000 hertz, something else is going to come out, and the way that they, morph and move around, you'll start to hear like a little riff, like actually a melodic line. That's often a lot of how I come up with little extra guitar licks or keyboard lines and stuff like that. So I think that has something to do with it. It's quite a natural process, really.
So we're waiting for a brighter day as well. Was that written before or after 200 times?
That was a long
That
time
was
ago.
about 10 years ago that I wrote that song.
10 years ago?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. It was like, I wrote it when we were in our previous band, Flash Guns, which finished when we were about 21, 22. And yeah, it's just always been a really special song that has always been around, and everyone's always known about it. Like, we've played it, plenty of times, and, thought of, and played it in the studio, rehearsing and thinking, oh, this is really a wonderful song. It's just got sort of, it's sort of just bookended, it's like, I feel like it's quite a tidy little song, but it's also, I'm really pleased with it, and I always have been. So I just wanted to wait for the perfect opportunity to record it. And that just happened to be when everything shut down, and I had plenty of time on my hands, and was also feeling a bit more confident about actually doing the recording myself. That's been around for years and years, and it's just been a sort of like, don't know what's kind of simile. It's not a sword of Damocles, but it's like something just a bit out of reach. But finally, we sort of, I had the time to go for it.
Did you have a demo from 10 years ago?
Yeah, that was one of like 4 songs that I was listening to pre-joining. That I was just like, I want to be want to get in on this, and luckily managed to actually managed to happen.
He wheedled his way
that
in.
was one of the tunes. That was one of the tunes. That was that other side. No Place to Go. Those songs they had, they were so raw, and that was always a. I love it. I love that tune. I've always loved Waiting for a Brighter Day, and it's just nice that it's out now.
It's quite fun.
It's like been there for so long. It's
like an old friend.
It is just it's just a really nice concept that it's actually out in the ether. It's great.
Yeah.
Because for me personally, like having heard it then, and at the beginning of this journey, it's been lovely. It's nice.
How does that demo of 10 years ago compare to what it is now?
It's quite different, actually.
Yeah, very different. I mean, the quality of it is very different, owing in part to my lack of knowledge and skills, and also in part, due to the technology that I had at the time available.
But I think if you released that, I think it would stand alone.
It would be okay.
Right.
It would be fine.
Great.
Well, I think as we said, that song has always been kind of, it's just fell into place. It's one of those ones that just falls into place. And but no, I think it would sound. You would notice that it's the youthful innocence in it, I'd say, probably.
It feels a little bit more direct too, though, in terms of the way it's written.
Yeah, well, I think that's partly why I've always enjoyed it so much as a song, is that, as I said, it just is tidy and direct and like fairly honest. So in a way, it was a bit of an anomaly as well to the music that we were writing around that time, because it kind of stood out. And I think sometimes as well, you feel like you want to wait again for the right time. So it's like if you write a song that kind of sticks out and is up here, and what you're writing and recording is around here, you kind of have to wait for the whole thing to sort of catch up. So I think we probably also collectively feel like we've done that over the last however many years we've been working on it. So
I mean, as you continue to grow as artists, does it feel like the speed at which the recording advances and the speed at which the writing advances, do they feel like they're going in parallel now? Or is there still one that's kind of ahead of the other?
I mean, the recording process is very different now than it ever has been, because we've basically completely come out of the studio, really. I mean, Sam's been digging in with the Apollo for basically everything outside of drums and keys. Drums and bass, yeah.
Yeah, but even bass I've done on there. So
yeah, true. So I mean, yeah, and I think that was obviously forced hand because of everyone having to be at home. So in the future, I think there'll probably be a bit more of a balance. But at the same time, I think you can get, like with the tech now, you can get so much from being at home with what you've got on your computer. Like
everyone's using home
studios.
studios.
A lot of money. So
no,
yeah,
there's like a few times in my life where I've been like truly stunned by technology, or like, I remember one time my brother's a photographer, he got this new camera. It was Sony, and it had this Retina display, tiny screen on it. I remember just looking at it and being like, this is better than real life. This is insane. And I spent the whole night just like living through the
colour phones came.
Yeah, and the other. Oh my word, that's scary. So, and the other one was recording a whole song on my phone in GarageBand, which I was just like, I remember being there and just almost having a bit of an existential crisis, being like, what is this thing? Like, how is this done? Recorded a whole song. And the next is when I started to really dig into the technology that Universal Audio have come out with and are still improving. And I don't work for them, by the way.
There's still a lot to be said though for being in a studio with and in that environment. I think there's a happy balance, and it comes through just being in the right place at the right time and working with what you got and what money you got. So who knows about the future recordings, but these ones in particular have been done quite happily outside of the studio. Yeah,
I think what we need to do now, since we kind of had everything shut down, I guess let's just call it a couple of years, give or take. We all have a bit of catching up to do, I think. Like, we've all sort of,
different spots.
Yeah, exactly, because we were completely disparate for the entire time. Didn't even play together for 2 years, So, we've all got to sort of, this tour has been good for that, and getting these singles out, I think, has sort of, relit the flame a bit. you know, and just reinvigorated people and made people sort of, yeah, we're all just thinking, you know, what's the next step, really? I don't think we're here like, yeah, we're back, let's do this, you know, we're ready to take over the world. We're like, okay, what's next? And we're just working that out, I think, slowly. And I feel like there's no rush coming out of all this sort of kerfuffle that we've been experiencing. But yeah, and I think we're just trying to enjoy it as well. Yeah.
That seems like quite a nice note to wrap up on.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice, man.
Thank you very much, guys.
Great,
Cheers.
dude. Thank you very much. Yeah, always a pleasure. Nice conversation.